Is this strictly a baseball move, something that makes your team better, Alex, or was it simply time to move off of a player?
It wasn't by design to move fast. We had our off-season meetings, and we ultimately had to make some decisions on all the guys we had options on, Morrow and McGowan and Adam and so on. And with the plans we had for the off-season, there were scenarios that we weren't going to bring a lot of those guys back. So what we did was we said, let's find out if there's any market for these guys. And we basically contacted all the clubs and tried to get a feel for it. And look, with respect to Adam, he did a great job when he was here. He's as good as it gets when he's in the box against a right-hander. He can really hit. But the reality of it for us was only two clubs had interest. One was the Brewers. The other, I just don't think it's our place to name them. But only two clubs had interest in the player. And that's not to say there's not people in the game that like Adam. But when you factor in his salary, I know it's been reported $7.5 million, and it is with the option. But guaranteed on your books, it's an $8 million player. And we always say we like players, but we like them at a certain price. And I can't speak for other clubs, but I do think at first glance, when we talked to clubs, some said, yeah, we'll look at it. And then the more they did look at it, they just said, look, we're going to go in some other directions. There's a lot of other options in free agency. There's a lot of players in trade. So ultimately, it came down to two clubs, and it was about getting whatever return we could, because at the end of the day, our alternative was to walk away from the player, pay him the $1 million buyout, and allow him to become a free agent. And if we had elected to keep him into the next month, and ultimately we sign someone else, we trade for someone else, now we're blocked, and we have his salary on the books, and we have him on the roster, and all of a sudden those two clubs have filled their needs with other trades or other free agents. It's just a risk that we couldn't afford to take. So it was a move that we needed to make. We have some other things we want to get done. It's going to give us the flexibility to pursue those things. We just thought it was much too, knowing what the market was, which we were as prepared as we could be, just didn't make any sense. We certainly couldn't take the risk that we thought we were going to get a stronger return if we waited 2 or 3 weeks. We may not have gotten anything at all.
So talk about that flexibility. I know you've been asked this question a number of ways and different ways of doing it. But with all the news you made over the weekend, and there's no Brandon Morrow and there's no Sergio Santos, and the salary that's even freed up with this move here, how much wiggle room do you have now to do the things that you want to do?
I think we have quite a bit, but we needed to create that. I mean, that goes without saying. I think that's why I talked about that at the end of the season, that I was excited that we were going to have a chance to pursue some things, and that certainly does not guarantee anything. I'd love to be able to do that, but if we're locked into certain contracts, guaranteed commitments, and we want to upgrade on some of those players, it makes it a little more challenging because you need to find a trade partner, and there's certainly no assurances that you're going to end up doing that. To build in as much flexibility as we can, and whether it's claiming Dirks or Smoke, those guys are arbitration eligible. They're non-guaranteed contracts. If something was to come about, you have the ability to walk away from any one of those players with really no commitment at all. When you exercise an option on someone, that money becomes guaranteed. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. It just allows us to have some insurance policies if it comes down to that. There's scenarios that those guys are on the team. Completely candidly, there's scenarios that those guys are not on the team. But I just can't predict what's going to happen in the next month, and we need to be protected to make sure that we do have some options going forward.
I got to sneak this in time-wise just about Estrada, whether you forecast him as a starter or as a middle reliever. When you trade for guys like Mark Burley, Josh Johnson, we know where they'll be. Estrada's kind of ended up as a tweener last year for Milwaukee. Are you hoping he's in your starting rotation, or are you hoping he's in the pen?
No, we're hoping he's in the bullpen. That's not a slight to him, but that means our rotation is going to be a strong rotation, but he's a guy that can make 20 starts for you. I know he had a bit of a down year last year. And when you look at home run rates, that's probably the one thing that can be more. There could be a luck component to that. And you look at his home runs per innings pitched, it's really been around 19 or so each year. It went up by 10, and you saw that happen to RA with us or Burley. But we think Milwaukee's a more offensive ballpark than ours. We think he can be back to that guy who was in 13 and 12 that can give you a high 3 ERA, throws a ton of strikes, can get swing and miss, and can provide a really important role for you as a depth starter and a good guy in the pen.